Hello, I'm Lorianne Lumpy with Soul School, and this is Soul Lessons. The lesson in this video is about two significant pieces of our conditioning that we are invited to heal and transform as we are moving through our soul's journey of evolution, unfolding, and in that journey towards self-actualization. Those two things are the word should and the feeling shame. I want to start with should. Should is a word that is imposed upon us by an outside perceived authority. It is somebody else dictating what we should believe. Did you hear that? Should. What we are to believe, what we're expected to believe, how we're expected to act, how we're expected to dress, how we're expected to eat, sit at the dinner table, interact with our friends, spend our day, spend our time, what kind of goals we're expected to have. Should is a word that is not even cloaked in. It's obvious that it is all about expectation. Specifically, it is an expectation that is held up as a threat that if we don't fulfill those expectations, then we won't be loved. We'll be banished. We'll be ostracized from our family, our friends, our community, our God, or whatever you might call that. Should is a weapon that is used by the outside perceived authority, an authority that is rooted in fear and power that seeks to manipulate and control. Should is a word of manipulation. In the journey of our soul's unfolding, we are invited to recognize the shoulds in our life. We are then invited to discern, do we still agree with these shoulds? Do some of these expectations that have been imposed upon us reflect and resonate our truth? Or do they no longer fit? Or perhaps those expectations never fit in the first place. As we are moving through our soul's development, our soul's growth and unfolding, we are invited to be clear on what is ours, what is our truth, how do we want to live our lives, how are we called to live our lives, and to untangle ourselves from the shoulds that have told us otherwise. This brings me to the second word, shame. Shame, at least in the way that I describe it to clients and course participants, shame is a natural feeling that emerges out of us in two situations. One, when we are acting in ways that are non-loving towards another human being. We have a biological response system that says, this is non-loving. Someone will be hurt by this. It is our body's way of telling us, no, it is our body's way of supporting us in developing and participating, being part of harmonious, cooperative, collaborative relationships. Because as a species, we thrive when we are able to work in harmony with one another. The other situation in which shame arises within us is when something non-loving is being done to us. A dramatic but powerful example of this is a child that is experiencing molestation. That child will feel shame, not because they did anything wrong, but because what's being done to them is very wrong. As a child, they don't know what to do with that feeling except to internalize it. This shame then becomes a part of their biology, a part of their psychology, and it is something that hinders and keeps them from living a free and fulfilling life. As we are moving through our soul's journey, shame is one of those things we are invited to heal. First, to identify that feeling when it arises in us, and to examine the origin of that feeling. If shame is arising in us, we might ask ourselves, am I doing something that might cause harm to another? Or have I been conditioned to believe that what I'm doing is wrong? Anytime, this brings me back to should, anytime we step outside of our conditioning, our programming, the shoulds and the shame that has been placed upon us as a burden, every time we experience that, we're invited to ask, is this shame because I'm doing something to harm another? Or is it because someone's doing something to harm me? Or is it a programmed response because of how I've been conditioned? Let me give you an example from my own life. And I'm not going to cast any blame on anyone regarding where this might have come from, because in truth, part of it is just inherent within me. It's part of my temperament. But as a type 1 on the Enneagram, one of the negative loops of self-talk that I have is wondering or being afraid that I did something wrong. And so this endless loop of feeling as if I'm at fault, as if I did something wrong, has been a burden in my own life. And in number 1, recognizing this as a pattern for type 1 perfectionists, and also understanding where some of that may have come from in my past, I've been able to identify the shame that arises when I'm standing up for myself, when I'm stepping out of my status quo, when I'm trying to name and claim my needs, when I do accidentally cause harm to another, not on purpose, but we all say and do things that inadvertently hurt someone else. Through some deep, very simple spiritual practices, I've been able to, number 1, learn how to identify that shame, but also transform it. Transform it to the place where I no longer feel the conditioned shame. And that's the primary shame that we're invited to heal and transform, because it's still appropriate to feel shame if I'm doing something intentionally to harm another, or if someone is doing something intentionally to harm me. Shame and should. These are 2 of the big obstacles to living freely and fully in our lives. And these are both obstacles that can be overcome. If you are looking for support in identifying and overcoming the burden of shame and should, please reach out. My name is Lorianne Lumby, and this is Soul School, and this is Soul Lessons. And you can reach me or check out my website at www.loriannelumby.com, where you can learn more about my online courses, books, one-on-one counseling and mentoring, and all of the other resources that I have to offer through this service. This is Lorianne Lumby, and this is Soul School. Thank you.